Psychics. They claim to possess powers which enable them to move inanimate objects, bend metal with the light stroke of a finger, and assist police in their search for slain victims. This man has been acclaimed as the world's leading psychic. Danny Corum investigates those who claim to have psychic powers.
Now, you must consider that claims of psychic powers might be deceitful or even dangerous.
Danny Corum, an alleged psychic, and the first psychic confession.
The newspapers and other media will often feature the exploits and claims of so-called psychics, and they will rarely call those claims of power into question. I'm Danny Corum, and for the past 12 years I have been researching claims of psychic powers and presenting my findings in university lectures. Because of my expertise, a friend called and asked me to investigate a purported psychic who was influencing his brother. This program is about the shocking story that I found. It begins in Salt Lake City with a self-proclaimed psychic named James Heidrich.
James Heidrich, martial arts instructor. Believed by many to be the world's leading psychic. Intellectually armed with a third-grade education and claiming to be self-taught in the martial arts, one is easily impressed by Heidrich's exhibitions of strength, cat-like agility, power unleashed in a blow from only 1 inch. And the blind man's version of combat. Heidrich claims he developed his abilities in adolescence and later perfected in manhood. Regardless of their size, Heidrich could apparently move objects at will.
When I arrived in Salt Lake, Heidrich and his abilities were attracting extensive coverage by the local media.
Earlier this month, a 21-year-old martial arts expert, now living in Salt Lake, walked into the Salt Lake Tribune and said, "I can move objects without touching them." Reporters and editors, skeptics and believers together watched as James Heidrich did, in fact, move pencils, turn pages in a notebook, and flutter the leaves of a plant. A publisher in Chicago wants to market a book about Heidrich's life, and some producers of national programs, including Johnny Carson, and That's Incredible, have also expressed an interest in what he does.
When I move a pencil, I don't think, I do.
Is it a magician's trick? Can he control his breathing like a ventriloquist and literally blow the objects away? Heidrich refutes his critics by turning sideways and moving the object. Sometimes he has others join him, using them as the instrument in moving the object.
And you can, and when he does it, sometimes he'll say to touch him, and it's almost like you can feel an electricity, a force that's there that you can't quite, it's like you tingle all over if you even go to touch him.
The television exposure Heidrich received made his school of martial arts seem acceptable to parents like Steve and Sharon Clark, who Corum interviewed.
The attitude, the way the man conducted himself, and the things that he did, so I told Jimmy that he could go ahead and enroll in the program.
Heidrich's school enrolled over 300 students, but Heidrich had another goal.
Get something like a monastery to where I can bring them up to where they all have mental power.
$16,000 of funding was provided by this woman, Janice Schrock, a divorcee who adopted Heidrich after she visited him at his studio.
He was 22 years old.
Yes.
Did you think that might be an unusual relationship, adopting somebody that old?
Yes, but I thought of it in the light of he wanted to go somewhere, and he was interested in a monastery, and I had connections in this respect, and I thought that if he has made up his mind that that's what he wants to do, then I could help him in a lot of things.
To aid the development of the monastery, she wanted Heydrich to visit a cult-like group in California.
Swami Kriyananda, he has a city it's at Nevada City, California. It's known as Ananda. It's I think he has about 150 families that live there. I want him to visit because he was interested in a monastery, but he wanted a monastery where he'd have children and families and such things, and this is what Swami Kriyananda has.
Heydrich's influence quickly spread to other parts of the country.
Appearances on primetime television and billed by the tabloids as the world's leading psychic, other more reliable sources such as the Associated Press stated, Heydrich has at various times and always in the presence of reporters done the following. Turned the pages of telephone books from 10 feet away and moved pens, pencils, plants, and other objects by giving them hard stares. A scientist and professor of electrical engineering at the University of Utah, after much testing, also concluded that Heydrich's demonstrations of mind over matter were indeed authentic.
Coram discovered that the Salt Lake police were also interested in Heydrich. Detective Clegg informed Coram that Heydrich had served time in Los Angeles for kidnapping and robbery, and he was considered dangerous by the Salt Lake police.
James has quite a lot of ability. He's quite athletic, and he could be quite dangerous.
There were others who also knew of Heydrich's criminal record.
Before you make any decisions, read about my life, and he gave me this folder of police records.
John and Krista Bates took in the 21-year-old Heydrich after he moved to Salt Lake from Los Angeles. They believed they could help him overcome his past.
And that whole night I was sitting up in the dining room and I was reading it, and, you know, it didn't, for some reason, upset me at all. I just felt like this boy needed some help, and maybe for some reason I could be the one to help him.
The Bates had met my friend's brother, Steve, and John told me of Steve's harmful obsession with Heydrich's powers.
James to have some connection with all of this supernatural stuff that was going on, and Steve just lost contact with reality, in essence, and for several days they couldn't get him out of the hotel. He wouldn't eat, he wouldn't get dressed, and finally they were successful in getting him into the psychiatric clinic at the university, UCLA.
But Heydrich's students were convinced that they too could possess the same psychic powers.
Cause the building to crack, to rotate, cause that bag to react, cause the balls to move, cause the lights to move. Cause these things to start swinging. Cause them to start swinging. That's good.
Do you believe that James is a fake?
He could be. It doesn't matter to me if he is or isn't.
The devotion of cult members to their leaders has led to tragedy in the past.
I don't accept the court. I don't accept the whole situation. You know, like I was in the desert minding my business.
Charles Manson.
This confusion belongs to you. It's your confusion. I don't have any confusion. I don't have any guilt. I know what I've done.
His teachings and claims of power led his followers to bizarre acts of devotion and to murder. Jim Jones, a powerful speaker. He also used simple conjuring tricks to convince his followers that he possessed powers. He claimed the power to heal, but tragically demonstrated that he could persuade hundreds to join him in death. Sadly, there seems to be no shortage of people willing to follow unquestionably someone who claims to have powers, especially if he promises them a share of that power.
Allowing the mind to overpower the body, the mind wills and the body behaves.
Coram had reason to suspect that Heydrich could also become a persuasive cult figure.
And you can tear up about 15, 20 people at one time with these. And because of the holes are in them, it makes it so where
it moves
move
quickly.
Faster.
No resistance.
Yeah. And
after lengthy discussions, Coram convinced his friend's brother Steve to end his relationship with Heydrich. When Steve was no longer under Heydrich's influence, Coram decided to film Heydrich.
I asked Heydrich if I could film him for a program dealing with alleged psychics. Although he agreed, I remained cautious.
We have outside and inside training quarters. And what I'll do is, without my students even knowing it, I will take them downtown and have them attacked.
A criminal record and lethal weapons. Heydrich had to be approached with great care.
It can break the wrist. If it's used right, it can come and take the arm around the body and break it.
There was no doubt in Coram's mind that Heydrich was a threat, but even more alarming, the negative influence on others and his powers. Are they psychic? James Heydrich, lethal prowess, coupled with the ability to convince others of hidden powers, and seemingly transfer his psychic abilities to his followers. But of all of Heydrich's demonstrations, this was the most impressive.
Here, Heydrich causes a dollar bill to rotate at will on the head of a pin, even though it is sealed off from air currents and threads by a glass fish tank. Observant, Coram was uniquely qualified to discern if trickery was used. A world-class inventor of conjuring tricks, Danny Coram is a professional magician. With over 20 years invested in the mastering of his craft, Coram has developed the surgeon-like skill necessary to manipulate matter without regard for the laws of science or logic. The author and publisher of numerous texts for magicians, Coram specializes in a style of conjuring using borrowed objects and with his audience only a few inches away.
You have a $5 bill?
I just happen to have one right here with me.
In his office, Coram displays his skill for a television interview.
Show both sides. Nothing else on this. By the way, I pulled back my sleeves so you would know there's nothing up my sleeves, right?
Certainly.
You fold the bill in half once like this. You fold it in half again like this. Fold it in half again one more time. Now, don't take your eyes off the 5. Lisa, I'll make you laugh. I'll make you cry. You've just kissed $4. Goodbye. Most people think I deceive them because my hands are quicker than the eye. Here you can see the same trick, but in slow motion. And it is still impossible to perceive how the trick is done. The principles of our craft have become so sophisticated that if Houdini were alive today, he too would be fooled by the tricks of the modern-day magician.
In his book, The Fakers, Coram summarizes his investigations of alleged psychics, and it provides the basis for his university program, Fraud and the Supernatural, in which Coram presents many demonstrations which might easily be interpreted as psychic powers. Here Coram has invited 5 people to join him on stage. 4 of the participants are asked to write down the name of someone they know. This participant is asked to write down the name of a deceased person she knew.
Now wait until my back is turned before you begin writing on your slips of paper, and then fold your slip of paper after you've written the name.
Coram has never met any of these people before. The names are then folded, mixed, and given to the person on the end. The woman standing next to Coram is a registered nurse, taking his pulse.
What I'd like you to do, ma'am, continue holding my pulse, is I'd like you to take up one of the slips of paper and hold it up to your forehead. Okay? If you notice any change in my pulse, let me know immediately. How's my pulse?
Fine.
Is it faster or slower?
It's the regular pulse.
About the same rate? Okay. Would you please put that piece of paper down and pick up another one? How's my pulse?
It's the same.
It's not slowed down at all?
No.
All right, put that one down, pick up another one. How's my pulse?
Fine. The same.
Without warning, Coram's pulse stops.
It stopped.
I'm sorry?
It stopped. I have no pulse.
My pulse has stopped?
Yeah.
There is no pulse? You're holding the name of the deceased. Let me have it. Do not open it. Hold it pressed tightly against your head. I want you to look at me. This was a gentleman, wasn't it, that you knew very well? He was a friend, and his name is Bruce Prather.
Yes. Frightening, isn't it?
Although his audience is thoroughly entertained, many believe that what they have witnessed is not a magician's trick.
Now, how many here, after seeing this last demonstration, might believe that I have some kind of a psychic power? Let me see a show of hands, please.
But his audience is reassured.
Everything that you saw this evening, everything was a trick.
Psychic powers or cleverly concealed tricks. After several demonstrations, Coram was convinced that Heydrich was not a psychic, but a trickster employing brilliantly conceived stratagems of deception. Retreating to Dallas, Coram worked to duplicate Heydrich's methods.
I believed Heydrich used a refined technique of exhaling puffs of air which caused the pencil to rotate. To accomplish this, the pencil must first be balanced on the edge of the table. Then, a puff of air is exhaled, not at the pencil, but at the table's surface. The air currents moving along the surface contact the delicately balanced pencil. To spin the pencil in the opposite direction, a puff of air is directed at the other end of the pencil.
Duplicating Heydrich's head turn was far more difficult.
With proper timing, I believe the head could be turned before the air currents reach the pencil.
And with practice, success. The turning page was also accomplished by the same principle.
If you release the puff of air at the tabletop, a page with an upturned edge flips over. I also experimented with a method where air currents were not involved.
In this method, which cannot be disclosed, the page slowly turns. Illusion extraordinaire. But this was Coram's toughest challenge. Motion in a dollar bill, sealed from trickery.
My immediate thought was that Heydrich used a cleverly concealed device, but after examining the props, I ruled this out. I noticed, however, that the bill only revolved when Heydrich was at one end of the tank, so I had one of my crew divert Heydrich out of the room. As I anticipated, my airline ticket and credit card easily slid unhindered beneath the tank's edge.
The doorway for Heydrich's air currents, a narrow gap between the tank and the table.
Heydrich took advantage of the unobvious. Most fish tanks, due to imperfections, will not meet a table flush on all edges. Thus, the seal is imperfect.
As in the pencil trick, Coram discovered that gentle puffs of air directed at the table's surface will carry under the tank's edge and hit the dollar bill, setting it in motion.
Few magicians have ever taken such a simple and obvious principle and yet made it so deceptive.
To be certain that Heydrich would not refute his explanations, Coram filmed each of Heydrich's demonstrations in Salt Lake City with restrictions. A strategically placed and highly sensitive microphone thwarted the pencil illusion.
We knew that Heydrich was afraid that our microphone could pick up his blowing.
I'm gonna need music, I'll bet.
You think so?
Yeah, I can't. It's too quiet.
He wanted music to cover his blowing. When Coram refused, failure. The dollar bill trick, foiled by securing tape along the tank's edge, and again, failure. The next day, Coram and Heydrich flew to Dallas for another taping session. On this day, Coram removed his previous restrictions.
I told the sound technician to inform us that the mic levels had to be turned down due to feedback.
We had a problem with the audio. We'll have to do it over again.
All right.
With the mic obstacle eliminated, the pencils moved. Later, Heydrich attempted to transfer his pretended power through Coram.
But unbeknownst to Heydrich, Coram blew on the pencil first.
Heydrich was startled. For the dollar bill test, Coram supplied a tank where only one corner would not meet the table flush. This corner was turned away from Heydrich. The dollar bill remained motionless.
The glass is so hard to work through sometimes.
How about if we turn it? Maybe, would that help you?
Yeah.
Turn it.
It doesn't matter, it's still...
With the corner now accessible, movement.
And when Heydrich again pretended to transfer his power through Coram...
Try and get it to go back the other way?
Coram brought the bill to life. Never knowing that Coram was a professional magician, Heydrich was again bewildered.
We already done it twice.
Yeah, but just this ain't right. Something's not right.
What?
I don't know.
It's gonna look right. It's gonna look good from here.
Cut off film. No, do you think that we're going to do something with it?
At a later taping,
Is that what you're saying? It's not right?
Heydrich is reluctant to demonstrate the page-turning trick.
I don't want to do it. I don't. Forget the part
He
about
becomes
man.
increasingly agitated.
Because this, I don't understand, man. This ain't cool at all.
And finally explodes.
God. This makes me mad every time.
Heydrich and his claims of power were a destructive force. But what later surfaced was an even greater threat.
How did they want to use you?
To brainwash people. I could have went two ways, good or bad.
After several hours of tense and exhaustive dialogue, Coram was able to persuade Heydrich to talk about his past. Coram then enlisted the help of Hugh Ainsworth, a former bureau chief for Newsweek, to verify the details of Heydrich's past. The taping lasted 2.5 hours and revealed not only trickery, but a life of tragedy and fantasy.
The real legend of James Heydrich